So, hi everyone, good afternoon. Welcome to Logistics and Supply Chain Management. In today's session, we'll be discussing assignment 3, which is the supply chain consultant assignment. So, basically, what you are required to do here is you are assuming the role of a supply chain consultant here. Here is where you need to select any organization. So it could be an organization that you may be familiar with. I know that some of you guys come from like Tucker Energy Services Limited, GTE, SMG Lille, Sulu, a number of different backgrounds. So any of these organizations can be applicable here. So what it is you'll be doing is you'll be discussing how the organization, whether it be GTA, a supermarket, whatever the case may be, how that organization can create what is called a superior competitive advantage by utilizing the supply chain transformation strategies. I know that a number of you guys were thinking that it was session 5, but really and truly it's actually session 9, and what you'll be looking under would be the 7 major business transformations. So basically 3 of these transformations here, or business transformations, would be ideally from the firm level functional integration to supply chain integration, product push and demand pull, and firm based competition to network competition. So basically I know that most of you guys would have seen this element and think that it was session 5. No, what we are looking at is the business transformations. So this is what we'll be getting into today. So for the purpose of this presentation and to ensure that everybody has a comprehensive understanding of the assignment, I've actually provided you guys with a sample moving forward. So the organization chosen here would have been KISS Baking Company Limited, commonly known as KISS. The only restriction or limitation that I have is that you can't use this example company, because it would mean that you'd be copying the work that is actually presented. So you could apply the principles and so forth to your organization, but you can't use KISS here per se. So when we are looking at the assignment here, the assignment is actually broken down into 2 sections. So the first section here is where you would give probably a brief history or background to the company, and the second section here is where you really and truly going to have your marks awarded. So here is where you're assessing how the company utilizes supply chain management to achieve competitive advantage. Here is where you're going to discuss the firm's supply chain transformation strategy. So here I've listed out different guidelines for you guys to follow. So here you could talk about why the company utilized this strategy over that, why there's a need to move away from one strategy to the next, and you could also identify reasons for either you can identify reasons for competition of supply networks as opposed to individual companies. So basically you ask yourself why, how, what, which, these kind of questions, and basically that is where you would come up with your solutions to the assignment itself. What I would suggest is that you focus on one area, because you guys have an additional 2 weeks to actually complete the assignment. So don't fluster yourself too much to push it down to the end. Focus on one area at a time. Ideally, spend a day on probably the firm functional level integration, then supply chain integration, a day or 2, and you would get it moving. Here you can mash up this in probably a day. Just do your research and pull out your pertinent information. So here is where I'm going to jump in and show you how the assignment is to be put together. So in terms of the history and your background here, you could talk about when the company was founded, the type of products, where it was located. So like the example that we have here, KISS was actually founded in 1978 and it was actually producing cupcakes as opposed to KISS cakes, and they were only available in two flavors, which were orange and chocolate. And they actually was founded in El Socorro, San Juan, Trinidad. It's only 11 years later, in 1989, is where they moved to the state-of-the-art bacon facility in Chaguanas. So things like this information will be pertinent information that you could put in. We could also talk about them today in modern day society. So KISS is actually the Caribbean's leading wholesale bakery as well as a member of the Bermudas Group. Important to note here is that the firm owns a fleet of over 100 delivery vehicles. So this is where you actually see KISS actually covers the entire geographic location of Trinidad and Tobago. If you're going up all the way up to Matlot, you're seeing a KISS truck. 6 a.m. these guys are on the road. So you need to, think about it like that. So here is where you're jumping into what is called the supply chain transformation strategies. So as you can see, the first section is nothing much, it's just an introduction. For the most, that should be probably about 300 words, give or take, because they just really and truly want to introduce the organization. Here is where you're talking about how the organization creates its competitive advantage utilizing the following supply chain strategies. So here is where you're exploring how the firm gains a competitive advantage through either firm level functional integration or supply chain integration. You would also analyze whether or not it utilizes a product push or a demand pull strategy, and you could investigate if the company operates under firm-based competition or network competition. And each of these areas here is what we will be discussing in the upcoming slides. So for the first point here, firm level functional integration or supply chain integration. So in its early days of operations, primarily between the 1970s to the 1980s here, KISS operated under firm level functional integration. This is because they actually produce two products, which would have been the cupcakes in orange and chocolate. So ideally here, they viewed the supply chain as an activity to get the raw materials for its product and basically to distribute its final product to customers. So here is where you're starting to gain into utilizing the concepts and understanding the model here. And I would strongly suggest that the textbook is provided for you guys. For this particular assignment, you can use the textbook and extract the material from it. I know most of you guys would have been accustomed with internet searches and so forth. Logistics and supply chain is relatively new, so the literature is not as vast as business or HR or so forth, so it might be confined to specific areas. Hence the reason I suggest the textbook is your go-to for this assignment. So the dependencies here between the organizations were high, however the cooperation between them were actually low. So in other words here, each member in the supply chain here were expected to do their part whilst minding their own business. So basically they were operating individually. So when it is they're finished, let's just say National Flour Mills, for example, would have been one of their suppliers. They drop off the flour and they go back. So basically they just fulfill your order and they go back and they wait again. So that's what they mean to say by minding their own business. So ideally in 1989 here, is where KISS realized that in order to become successful, it was not actually feasible for them to compete as an independent business, which this is what they were doing when they were founded. So as they move over into the new facility here, they started to compete here as the entire supply chain. So how they did this is actually they invested heavily into strengthening its distribution network, which is the 100 vehicles that they have purchased, which enabled them to actually make its supply chain network more competitive as a whole. So think about it when you guys are going to work on a morning, how many times you pass and you see KISS trucks on the road. Normally you see them in yellow and red, if I'm not mistaken, all over. I remember going up all the way up to Matlet and seeing these KISS trucks and them biting these corners going along. Every rural community, everywhere they actually go to. So here's where you can get a little creative as well. So usually in business they usually say the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So what we're talking about here, and this phrase makes a lot of sense, because you're no longer competing as independent entities, you're competing as a supply chain, which in this case would make reference to the whole. So the supply chain integration here has actually made KISS more competitive because it's add value in every stage of the supply chain, and it reduces what is called lead times, and it optimizes its delivery schedules. So basically what KISS does is at around 4 or 5 a.m. they actually load their trucks and they send them out by 6. So all over Trinidad and Tobago is where they have that standardized operation. So given that they have employed the supply chain integration here, KISS has actually achieved enormous success, and it has actually come to the realization that competition is no longer between individual companies but between supply chains. So KISS here has been a local company that has successfully achieved what is called true supply chain integration, and this actually occurs when the linkages and the coordinations are achieved amongst the supply chain activities. So basically everybody is working on part to deliver value, and they have basically by investing in this state-of-the-art facility, they have increased the coordination capability. Because when you look at the locations such as Chaguanas, it's kind of central between north and south. So that was a strategic move by them. So in terms of distribution, they could hit all corners of the country. So next we move on to the product push or demand pull strategy. So it's quite clear here that when KISS had started, they were utilizing a product push strategy, in that they were actually pushing their two products, which would have been the cupcakes of orange and chocolate, onto the customers. But after in 1989, what they realized is that in order for them to be successful, they need to take into consideration customer needs. And once they take into consideration customer needs here, is only when they could transition from a product push into a demand pull strategy. So here's where they employ the use of customer needs alignment in order to compete effectively. And basically what this is identifying the customer needs and customize your product offerings to cater to those different segments of the market. So what KISS has done here is that they dissected its product lines into individual segments and target different markets. So when you look at KISS, for example, they have the KISS breads, this is for your household consumption. You have the KISS cakes for children, and you also have the dessert cakes for special occasions. Similarly, if you look at, for example, Coca-Cola has a similar product offering. So basically you have your 2 liters for your family, you have your 20 ounce for the individual, and you have the new 350 ml for kids. Likewise, if you're looking at SM Jalil, Chubby for Kids, Fruta for Kids, or Cool Kids, they have similar products in terms of, for those of you who remember the glass bottle solo, that would have been for individual consumption, and again the 2 liter products or the 1 liter products for family. So these are several different examples that you could actually utilize, or companies that you could utilize locally here to tailor for these different product or demand pull strategies. So KISS here has acknowledged the impact of customers' influence on its operations, and what it did is actually it embraced the customer focus strategy. So what they actually do is that on their website they utilize something called, well, a method called the voice of the customer. So what they actually do here is that they listen to their customers and assist, they listen to their customers and they basically try to bring out a product based on that. So this helps them understand the environment and helps understand the different type of demands that or customer needs that they have. So it actually helps them unearth and transcribe customer needs into requirements for new products and services. And these things here actually capitalize on the existing supply chain competencies and identifies areas whereby the firm could exploit avenues for new business. So just this area here, thinking about it, when you look at Nestle, for example, recently, Nestle has come out with the whole health conscious movement. So before they were offering one standardized product of, as you guys may know, Stay Fresh milk. Now they have different variations of that same product to cater to the different markets. As well as if you look at Orchard, for example, 25% less sugar, and all these set of different things. So this is how they actually listen to the customers here and better suit their needs. Additionally, you could also look at Moo milk. Moo came out with a milk for persons who are lactose intolerant, chocolate milk, different things like that. So it's quite clear that KISS actually switched from its initial product push strategy to a demand pull strategy to effectively serve its existing customer base. So what KISS does is that it uses one facility, that's the one in Chaguanas here, to service 2 segments of consumers or customers, and you see that they focus both on the wholesalers and the retailers, and they do this because of 2 main reasons: the benefits from economies of scale, because they're quite large, so they could get bulk purchasing, and increase asset utilization. So when we're talking about increased asset utilization, and we're talking about the use of the facility. So similarly, Carib utilizes the same principle as well. So what they actually do here is every 4 hours they actually change the product line on the same asset. So they would use beer, they would clean the lines, they would use malt to make the malt, to clean the lines, same facility to create jinxing up, all these different products, Stag, Carib, you name it. So to serve these 2 distinct markets, what KISS does is that they employ the use of 2 separate supply chains. So in the terms of wholesalers here, KISS delivers directly to them because timeliness and reliability are key components in wholesalers' operations, because the turnover time for the products tend to be short, as opposed to retailers here. On-time delivery plays a less critical role because retailers here tend to hold inventory or safety stock, so they do not require the timeliness or reliability as wholesalers. So the retailers here, once the bread's still on the shelf, KISS usually takes it back and replaces them. So now we move into the last part of the question here whether or not we're looking at firm-based competition or network competition. So KISS here has actually entered the era of network competition because it already has abandoned the notion of competing as a standalone entity but as a supply chain itself. So given that KISS had to do this restructuring internally in order to become network based, it actually had to change the way in which the business was operated, and this required a shift in the mindset of the persons who manage these operations. Another example that comes to mind here would be the Quartz warehouse in Freeport. Similarly, just the design of the warehouse itself actually is efficient. So usually the vehicles could just back up, you pack what it is you need for the individual branches and you send it out to them. So this in itself here is also a way in which the organization has changed its operations, and it also showcases how business owners have actually changed their mindsets. So now that warehouse in Freeport also services North and South, and it's centrally located throughout Trinidad and Tobago. So what KISS had to do here is that they had to reconstruct, coordinate and oversee the relationships of all its members in its supply chain. And once they did that, this is where they were allowed to deliver superior value. I mean to say, think about it. You go to a bakery to return a stale bread. Chances are they wouldn't really take it back. However, with KISS they would actually do that replacement. So the collaborative arrangements here means that they satisfy customer needs at a profit rather than a single firm undertaking multiple value creating activities. So ideally what we're talking about here is that, just going back to the example with the bakery, so in order for them to satisfy a customer here, that means they would have to take back a product and replace it with something at a cost. But what KISS actually does here is they actually take that old product and recreate it into something new. So this is what we're talking about here in terms of satisfying customers at a profit rather than undertaking these multiple value creating activities here. So here's where you actually go into your conclusion, and basically what it is you're doing at this stage is reiterating what it is you would have talked about in your introduction and your body. So in essence, what it is you're doing here, this paper actually assessed how KISS utilize supply chain management to achieve superior competitive advantage over its competition. So an examination here of the firm's supply chain transformation strategies actually revealed that the company shifted from firm level functional integration to supply chain integration. So you just make one concrete statement and you paint it over here in your conclusion. Remember, your conclusion is not long, it could be between anywhere 100 to 150 words, maximum 300 because you just 200, 250, 300 max because you're just reinstating what it is you're saying. It also explained why there was a need to move from product push towards a demand pull strategy, and this was due to the realigning itself with the needs of its customers. So you give the reasoning behind it here as well. And lastly, it evaluated the firm's competitive structure here by identifying the importance of competition between networks. And when we talk about networks here, we're talking about the supply chain networks rather than individual companies. So in essence, supply chain here is a valuable tool that businesses can utilize if they are desirous of achieving a sustainable competitive advantage. and that's it. So basically, this is how your assignment is broken up, and this is how you could be moving forward. So I know in this presentation I listed a number of different examples. You can utilize these examples. The only limitation, just to reiterate, is that you would be unable to use KISS to do so. But there are other companies such as Linda's, Diane, um, Trinidad Tissues, just to name a few. So all of these are different things that you can actually utilize in terms of your product. I mean your organization that you could choose. So I hope that this session was a little more informative for you guys, and I look forward to reading your papers. Ideally, once everything is submitted by the 10th of May, you should have your results by the end of May. Alright, so thank you again for your time, and again, if you have any questions, any concerns, feel free to send an email or so forth, and I could try and guide you accordingly.